Mira, the poor girl, survives the wicked torture of her auntie after both her parents pass away. Her auntie cuts her hair, not knowing that the hair was the only solution the whole village needed to survive. This story will surprise you as you watch till the end. In an ancient village surrounded by hills known for its beautiful natural view, lived a young girl named Mira. She lived happily with her parents in a modest mud brick home that, though small, was filled with the warmth of love and laughter. Mira was very strange. Unlike the other girls in the village who plaited their hair in tight cornrows, Mira was a unique creation of the gods. Her beauty was striking, but it was her hair that made people stop in their tracks. It was a supernatural wonder, strands of deep midnight black intertwined with pure glowing white. It was not the gray of old age, but a white that shimmered like starlight. It was thick, very long, reaching down to her waist, and seemed to hum with a life of its own. When she walked, her hair swayed like a royal cape, and even in the dark, the white strands gave off a faint, ethereal glow. Everyone in the village admired her hair, but admiration quickly curdled into jealousy. The older women whispered behind their calabashes, and the young ladies bit their lips in envy, wishing they possessed even half of her beauty. Knowing the danger of such attention, Mira's mother would often sit her down by the fireside, braiding that magnificent hair with trembling hands. She would look into Mira's eyes and advise her, saying, "Mira, my child, listen to the words of your mother. You must stay humble and kind to everyone, both the young and the old. Never let pride enter your heart because of your face or your hair. Remember, beauty fades like the evening sun, but a good character, that is the sun that never sets. Good character always wins over beauty." Mira held these words close to her heart, wearing her humility like a second skin. But life is unpredictable. One fateful afternoon, a dark cloud descended over their happy home. Mira's father, a strong man, suddenly collapsed with a serious fever. Despite Mira's efforts to cool him with wet rags and herbal mixtures, the fever would not break. By evening time, the breadwinner of the family breathed his last. It was a massive, crushing loss for the family. Mira's mother, who loved her husband more than life itself, could not withstand the pain. The shock was too great. The very next day, she clutched her chest and died of a heart attack, joining her husband in the land of the ancestors. In the span of just 48 hours, Mira went from a beloved daughter to a lonely orphan. She buried them side by side, her tears falling like acid on the fresh soil. She was left alone in a cold world, surrounded by sorrow, tears, and the painful memories of the love she had lost. The tragedy did not end there. All the villagers called her evil girl, accusing her of killing her parents, so the whole village avoided her. Mira's uncle, her father's younger brother, saw an opportunity in her pain. He was a greedy man. He chased Mira out of her father's farmland. "This land belongs to the men of the family," he shouted, throwing her bags into the red dust. "Go and find your way. A girl has no inheritance here." Mira looked to her neighbors, the same people her parents had fed when their crops failed. But they turned their backs, closing their doors. They feared the uncle. Mira wept bitterly as she realized how quickly the world could turn against an orphan. She realized that without money or parents, she was invisible. Left with no choice and nowhere to lay her head, she packed her few belongings and began the long trek to the neighboring village to stay with her only remaining family, her aunt, a woman popularly known in the village as Madame Dorcas. Madame Dorcas was a woman the village feared more than the forest spirits. She was known for a tongue sharp as a razor and a heart hard as granite. She had one daughter named Chioma. Chioma was treated like a delicate egg. She never lifted a finger, never swept a floor, and never fetched water. Madame Dorcas would often swear to the market women, "My daughter is destined for the palace. She will never know the suffering of a common villager. She is gold among stones." When Mira arrived, dusty and tear-stained, Madame Dorcas smiled, but it was not a smile of welcome. It was the smile of a predator seeing a prey. "Come in, niece," she said, her voice dripping with fake honey. "I'll stay." But in her heart, she planned to use Mira as a slave. Everyone in the village knew Madame Dorcas to be very troublesome, heartless, and wicked. People avoided her path to escape her trouble. Mira, however, could not help but attract attention. Every time she walked to the stream or the market, heads turned. Her hair was too beautiful to be ignored. It caught the sunlight and dazzled the eyes of every man in the village. The rich men, the hunters, and even the palm wine tappers would stop to greet her. This drove Chioma mad. She would stand before her mirror, pulling at her short, dull hair, hissing in frustration. She grew so jealous she could barely speak. She would say to herself, "This Mira's hair is too beautiful. It is a curse to me. With that hair, she captures every eye. Even the prince might look her way, and I will be left with nothing. I must do something." One afternoon, when Madame Dorcas was sleeping, Chioma crept into her mother's room. She slid the heavy wooden box from under the bed and stole a huge bundle of cash. She ran to the biggest cosmetic shop in the town center. She slammed the money on the counter, startling the salesgirl. "Please," Chioma demanded, breathless, "I need a hair booster and cream. I want something that will make my hair very long and glowing in just 3 days." The salesgirl looked at the desperate girl and laughed. "3 days?" she asked. "My dear, 3 days is too small unless you want to glue a horse's tail to your head. That is impossible. But I have a strong chemical. It burns a little, but it forces growth. It can do that for you in 1 month." Chioma, impatient but desperate, bought the expensive chemical and left, hiding it in her dress. The following day, chaos erupted in Madame Dorcas's house. She went to her box and found it light. Her scream shook the thatched roof. "Who stole my money?" she roared, her eyes bulging. She dragged Mira and Chioma into the parlor. Chioma immediately stepped forward, her face twisting into a practiced lie. "Mama, you know I am your blood. I cannot steal from you. Why don't you ask the stranger, the one who has nothing?" She pointed a shaking finger at Mira. "Ask the thief." Without waiting for an explanation, Madame Dorcas pounced on Mira. She grabbed a heavy cane from the corner and unleashed her fury. She didn't even bother asking her anything. "I am not a thief. I have never stolen in my life before," Mira shouted, cowering in the corner, tears streaming down her face as the cane cut into her skin. But then something incredible happened. As Madame Dorcas beat her, Mira's hair began to react. It started to pulse. The white strands glowed brighter and brighter, filling the dark room with a blinding, divine light. It was as if the ancestors were manifesting through her hair. Madame Dorcas froze. The cane fell from her hand. She stepped back, terrified by the girl glowing in the corner. She realized this was no ordinary child. The more she beat Mira, the more the hair glowed. Madame Dorcas let her go, but her fear quickly turned to calculation. She began to think within herself, "What is the secret behind this hair? In my 48 years of living, I have never seen such hair. I must find out the secret of her power." The next morning, while the mist still clung to the trees, Madame Dorcas visited the dreaded witch doctor, Baba Tunde, in his shrine. "Baba," she whispered, her voice trembling, "my niece lived with me. She is so unique, especially her hair. It is so long, it glows most times. Please, what is the secret behind it?" Baba Tunde cast his cowries on the dusty floor and chanted incantations. He stared at the pattern, his eyes widening in shock. "Madam Dorcas," he rasped, "you are lucky. That girl carries a glory no one can resist. Mira's hair is a solution to every problem. She will be great, and that is the God's gift to her." Madam Dorcas went home furious. The prophecy did not make her happy. It made her insane with jealousy. She saw Mira in the compound combing her hair, and her hatred increased tenfold. "Look how the hair is shining," she muttered, clenching her fists. "So she will be greater than my daughter? I must not let that happen. I will break her." From that day on, life became a living hell for Mira. Every morning, while the day was still dark, Madam Dorcas would come into Mira's room and wake her up with a heavy slap. "Useless girl! Do you think you are here to only eat? Come on, go to the river and fetch water." Mira would stumble out of mat, her eyes heavy with sleep. She would go to the stream every morning and evening to fetch water with a heavy clay pot balanced on her beautiful hair. She would wash mountains of plates, sweep the vast compound, and cook for the whole house. While Mira slaved away, Chioma would sit down, doing her makeup and applying the chemicals to her hair, praying for it to grow faster than Mira's. She did nothing in the house. Madam Dorcas would give Mira a heavy tray of fruits to hawk around the village under the scorching sun. But even in her suffering, Mira's light shone. Because of her hair, people rushed to buy her fruit just to be near her. She would rush back home and give Madam Dorcas all the money. Yet there was no gratitude. Madam Dorcas and Chioma would eat all the food and meat that Mira cooked, leaving only the burnt scrapings at the bottom of the pot for her. One fateful day, while Mira was hawking in the street, she saw a dead man lying on the street. Her innocent heart took over. She ran to him to help. "What has happened to him? How can I locate his family?" she panicked. But a group of jealous women who had long hated Mira for her beauty saw their chance. They began to shout, "The girl with evil hair has killed someone! Everybody come and see the evil girl! She is a witch!" A crowd gathered and began to beat Mira. They didn't ask questions. They saw a girl they envied and they attacked. They slapped her, kicked her into the dust, and tore at her clothes. Mira curled into a ball, crying out for mercy that didn't come. They beat her until she was bruised and broken. As Mira got home, bleeding and dirty, Madam Dorcas stood at the door. She knew Mira could not do such a thing, but the jealousy made her shout, "You disgrace! You bring shame to this house! You and this cursed hair! I will end this today!" "I will cut your hair now," Dorcas screamed. Chioma ran to get a pair of rusty tailoring scissors. She held Mira down, laughing as Mira begged, "Please, Auntie, it is my only gift, please!" But mercy had left that house. Snip, snip. The sound was sickening. Madam Dorcas hacked at the beautiful black and white strands. She cut every single strand of her hair until her scalp was bare, leaving jagged patches of skin. "Look at you now," Dorcas sneered, kicking the piles of beautiful glowing hair across the floor. "You are nothing." Mira was shattered. She had lost her pride and uniqueness. She cried all day and night, but her hair was still bald. The stigmatization in the village was heavy. People called her a murderer. At the market, women covered their goods, saying, "Don't let the bald witch look at my tomatoes." At the river, everyone ran away from her, claiming she poisoned the water. Children threw stones at her. But the gods were watching. 1 month later, after Mira's hair was cut off, a serious problem struck the village. The rivers went dry.
Farm crops began to dry and turn to dust. No rain fell, neither did dew. There was great hunger and thirst in the land. The king of the village began to find the solution to the problem in the land, so he made a decision that anyone who can bring a solution to the problem will have half of his kingdom. Everyone in the village began to make findings, searching for solutions. The native doctors in the land began to contact the gods, sacrificing animals. Pastors began to pray for a solution. Still, there was no solution provided. The situation became worse. There was no solution to the problem in the land. Young children fell seriously sick because of lack of food. Some even died, while some parents fed on lizards just to survive. Madame Dorcas and her daughter Chioma became a shadow of themselves. They had nothing to eat or drink. Meanwhile, Mira was the savior designed by the gods. Because of the sufferings, she went to her parents' grave and was crying bitterly for 3 days. "Please, come and take me to where you are. The sufferings here on earth is too much for me to bear. My hair is gone. I prefer dying than living," Mira cried, slapping her bald head because she hated herself.
Suddenly, a spirit appeared to her in the form of a woman whose body form is like a cloud. She touched Mira's head. Immediately, the hair on her head grew back, long, full, beautiful, and glowing. Mira was shocked. She felt like dancing and also crying. "Who are you? Please, you have restored my joy. I feel renewed again." The spirit didn't answer but replied, "Mira, you are the savior in your world. Go now to the village, cut a single strand of your hair and put it in the dry river. After 1 day, the river will begin to flow with abundant water. And bury exactly 100 strands of your hair in the junction of the village, and after 1 day also, the village will have an abundance of food." Immediately, the being disappeared. Mira was full of fear, but thanked her parents for the secret. She ran back to the village. The villagers were surprised to see Mira's hair blossom again. They talked to themselves. How did she grow her hair this fast? She must be evil. But Mira paid no attention to their conversation. She immediately went to the palace. "Your Royal Highness, I have a solution to the problem in our land." "Little girl, do you think we are joking here? Get out of my sight before I throw you to the lion's den," the king shouted. Mira begged the king, "I am not joking. I truly have the solution. Just give me the go-ahead." So the king finally listened to her. "How do you intend to do it?" he asked. She said, "I will not disclose my secret until it is done." The next day, all the villagers gathered in the king's palace with murmuring in their mouths. The king announced Mira would bring the solution. Many looked at her with despite. Madame Dorcas and her daughter were surprised, whispering, "She is only here to waste time. That is what she is good at." So the king ordered Mira to go and provide the solution. 3 guides escorted her to the biggest river in the village that was dry. She did as the spirit instructed her. She removed a single strand and dropped it in the empty river. Next, she went to the junction of the village, removed exactly 100 strands of her hair and buried them. Immediately she went back to the palace and told the king and people that it is done. By tomorrow morning, the village will wake up to meet abundant water and food. Many people doubted her. Some even threatened to kill her by tomorrow for wasting their time. The next morning, a rumble shook the ground. The whole village woke up to meet all their rivers flowing with abundant water. Farm products became green again. Their children and animals were healed. The village erupted in joy at the look of the miracles Mira hair did. A heavy rain began to fall, but all the villagers dances in the rain, including Mira and the king.
The king was happy. He ordered a massive celebration. He called Mira forward. "From today," the king declared, "Mira is the second in command. She is the mother of the land." The king and people celebrated Mira, dancing and singing her name. Madame Dorcas and her daughter stood in the back, wearing rags. Their jealousy turned to burning shame. They watched the girl they abused become the most powerful woman in the land. Mira became the richest woman in the village, proving that no matter the hardship, a good heart will always triumph.
Thank you for watching this story. I will love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Please, another interesting episode is coming out in few days, so make sure you subscribe to this channel, like and turn on the notification bell so that you will be notified the moment I upload the video. And if you enjoyed this story, please make sure you share the story with your family and friends. I really
And don't
appreciate
forget to
you all,
like, comment,
see
and
you in
subscribe
the
to
next
Folktale.
story.